So
Okay.
can I email it to you?
Oh, Alan is not going to be here, right? So we also need to find a timer.
Right. We need volunteers
或长短正好，长短正好。行行，
and a vote counter.
谢谢。
Oh, we're not having votes.
我要看。
Members, who doesn't have a role?
I can be a timer.
Ursula, do you have a role?
Here, here.
You could be grammarian. I always like your grammar suggestions.
Sure.
Okay, Ursula
so-
Grammarian.
Who's our timer? Me.
That's okay. Glasses are very clean.
Amy.
Oh, is that on? Amy is our timer, and then our grammarian
Kyle,
is
you are an accountant.
Ursula.
Ursula.
Is Ursula?
Ken, are you the evaluator?
Yes, I'm the speech evaluator.
John. Casey. John.
Just a couple of moments. Make up mind.
Okay.
Well, it's just that the battery is low, I think.
Alan is black.
But it's maybe, what time is it? It's probably 6:30 anyway, right?
Yeah, it should
And
go.
then we
What's
introduce the
your
roles, and then the word of the day.
Robert 不在，
It should get started anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys ready?
To book him, and you
Tyler, do you have an extra pen?
没有，对不起。
Yes.
I'll bring you guys on. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to tonight's San Francisco Mandarin English Toastmaster meeting. Tonight, we're going to have a great show for you. And so, before I get started, if anybody has a cell phone, could you silence your cell phone just so we can respect the speakers? And also, like to remind you guys that if you're going to be renewing the membership, hopefully you can bring in your renewal fee either this week or next week so that we can get the renewal going on. And our goal is hopefully to have 75% of our current members renew, so we get like a little trophy. That's the goal.
How much is the renewal fee?
The renewal fee, I believe, Alan sent out an email, is $48. That's going to include the fees to Toastmaster, and then also $12 of this club's fee, which are used in various ways. And we prefer checks. Money is okay, but no credit card. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on tonight's Toastmaster, Andy and Allison, on board.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, tonight we'd like to ask if there are any guests visiting. We'd like to say hello. Could you like to say your name and tell us how you came to visit us tonight?
Yes, I'm Lily Wen. I introduced by Carla, and she said this is a great event, and I'm excited to meet everybody. It's really interesting, and this is the first time, so unfortunately I have to leave in about 5-10 minutes, but it's really great. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming. And why you?
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Andrew, and where I found the group is I actually found it from Meetup. And then Toastmasters International is a pretty huge organization, and it keeps coming up in my searches. So I just decided to come here and give it a try. And my primary objective is to get to know more people.
Excellent. Thanks for you said your name was Andrew?
Yes.
Good. Great.
Or Andy,
Welcome.
if you will.
That's me. I'm Andy also. So you can remember one person's name. For sure. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming and welcome to our guests. Next, we want to clarify our meeting rules tonight. We have tonight first of all, the timer will be Amy.
Amy, 你来介绍你的 role 是什么意思？
Time card, please.
Yeah, my role today is going to be timer. For the speeches, after 5 minutes, I'm going to show the green. After 6 minutes, it's going to show yellow. After 7 minutes, going to red. Evaluation is 2 minutes is green, 2.5 minutes yellow, 3 minutes red. Table topic is 1 minute green, 1.5 minutes yellow, 2 minutes red.
Thank you.
May I clarify for Robert's speech, how long is it?
It's going to be 8 to 10.
8 to 10
8 to 10
minutes.
minutes.
And then for Joan, it's going to be 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
So it's going to be a little bit different than the 5 to 7 standard.
Next, we have the grammarian tonight, who was Ursula. Would you like to say what the grammarian does?
I'm going to look for all of your patterns that are usually common across multiple speakers. If there's something that I want to share with you individually, I'll do that, and we'll have fun. Thank you.
And next role tonight will be the ah counter, and I'm going to let Allison explain what the ah counter does.
What?
Yeah.
为什么我们的 out count 就是 Kyle 对吧？
Oh, okay. Yeah.
他也可以说中文。
So for the ah counter, what I do is I catch people with those crutch words like so, and those little delay words, and I'll be counting them as you go, so I'll keep track of those.
谢谢。Okay， 然后 go ahead.
Introduce our general evaluator.
Yeah.
So we'd like to introduce who will be doing the general evaluation of the meeting tonight. That'll be Kayla. Kayla, would you like to say what you're going to be doing?
I will observe how the meeting goes and give an evaluation on everything. So be careful. I'll watch. Thank you.
然后今天是周三对吧？但是周五很重要的节日，在美国不太重要，但是在中国非常很多人就清楚，周五是3月8号，你知道是什么吗 ？Yeah， 我们叫它国际闺女节。
妇女节。
哦，妇女节。OK，sorry， 国际妇女节。好，然后我们今天的 words of the day 是和平。和平 is peace.
And 平等 is equality. Equality. So we're in conjunction with International Women's Day, we're putting forth the twin concepts of equality for women and getting more women into leading roles so that we can have peace.
That's a good strategy.
所以如果在今天，如果你会用这2个单词，我们会给你们一个 ，OK？ 所以现在我们就介绍第一个演讲。我们第一个演讲是 Robert， 他的演讲叫 Inspire Your Audience。我们先来他的评估人介绍他这个演讲，他的评估人是 Ken。
Tonight, Robert is going to give his 10th speech. It's a slightly longer speech, and the goal is to inspire your audience using everything from all the previous projects, such as vocal variety, pauses, use of the space, maybe humor, and put it all together into a inspire your audience speech. Thank you.
Okay, Robert， 请
来
过来。
We should, yeah, I was going to say, the theme of Robert's talk tonight is the prince, or the princely system, the prince system, excuse me.
Okay. I don't know how to do this.
Oh, you don't have a folder?
Yeah. That's fine. Can you like pull the thing over the laptop over here so I can do like a... So just stand right over here. Yes, everybody can see me over here. Okay. Ever wonder why when you go into your boss office and ask for a raise, you come out with a disappointing look? Not happening. Ever wonder why you ask your girlfriend to marry you for the 5th time and she still says, nope, not going to happen? Well, are you asking the wrong question? Or are you not using the correct methodology? Now, if there's anything I took away from college, it has to be the political science class I took. Because in it, I learned about the Prince system. The Prince system was developed by Niccolo Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli was living in the 16th century as a historian, as a philosopher, as a humanist, and he wrote an amazing book called The Prince. The book simply details how a ruler should rule the country. And in it, it has a system called the Prince system. And what is the goal of the Prince system? The goal is really simple. It is to try to assess the support or the opposition of a potential policy that you want to implement. Now this may sound a little bit strange. Let's look at some of the steps that this system involves. The first step is identify a well-defined goal. So let's say I want my parents to pay for my vacation that costs $2,500. It's a well-defined goal. I want my boss to give me a 10% raise. That's a well-defined goal. After you have a well-defined goal, your next step is to identify all the players that could direct or indirectly impact on your decision. So let's say if it's a vacation you're trying to have your parents pay, who are the players? Of course, your mom and your dad, right? And if you're trying to get a raise, it's going to be your boss or your boss. So you need to identify all the players. And if you fail to identify an important player, the decision is detrimental. After you define all your players, what are you going to do next? You're going to have to determine whether they support you, they oppose you, or they have no position in what you're trying to do. Then, you need to assign values to the position, that the powers they have, the priorities that they have, or the issue position that they stand on. And finally, you need to calculate the success rate of your goal. Now, saying all this is very much difficult to put all these in your head. So let's go ahead and use some real-life example here. And I came up with the following. Identify your goal. Now, for a moment, I'm single right now. And my goal is to propose to my girlfriend in 6 months and have her say yes. Okay? Now, I say 6 months because I want to evaluate the current situation and see where she stands. And if there's something wrong with it, I need to implement certain changes. So who are my players? My fiance's mom, my girlfriend's mom, her dad, her sister, her best friend, and yes, her ex-boyfriend. Why? Because if you can't be lovers, you can always be friends. Okay? Now, where are they going to stand in all this situation? Well, from what I know, the mom is supporting me, so is the best friend. The dad opposed, and we'll talk about why he opposed. Of course, the ex-boyfriend will oppose, no questions asked. And the sister is neutral in this whole idea. So, afterward, I'm going to start setting priorities. The mom. She has a 2 in the position of supporting me marrying her daughter. She's not too really hype about it, but she's kind of hype about it. And definitely she has a lot of power, so she has a 3. And priority means 3. What does that mean? That means she talks to her daughter a lot about, hey, you know what? It's really time for you to get married, you know? You got to get married soon. The dad has a -2. And why does he have a -2? Because he knows I have a car, I have a good job, but I don't have a house. And if I don't have a house, maybe I can't take care of the daughter. It's not going to work out too well. And definitely he has power to influence. Priority, well, he doesn't talk a lot about marriage to his daughter. You know, you don't want to nagging your daughter about marriage, especially if you're the dad. The sister has a neutral stand on the issue here. And the reason because, she doesn't care whether her sister gets married or not. She does have some power to influence, and her priority is high, meaning she talks about it a lot, but she's really neutral about it. The best friend, of course she's going to support it because she's recently got married. Doesn't have a lot of power, and she's not talking about it all the time. Of course, last but not least, the boyfriend, greatly opposed -3, but doesn't have a lot of power, thank God. And of course, he's going to talk about it and say, you better not marry him. Bad choice. So we did all these analysis, and we come up with a score. Notice I have a parenthesis 6 on the sister, because when you have a neutral position, all you need to do is multiply the power and the priority and put a quote parentheses around that, and we'll talk about why that's the case. So let's do the computation here. To compute the possibility, it's really simple. We just add up all the positive score, and we take half of the neutral score. So in this case, we'll do 18 plus 3, 21, and take half of the neutral score, which is 3, coming up with a score of 24. Then we sum up all the possibility of all the scores here. So 18, 6, 6, 3, 9 comes out with 42. Then the probability of support is 57%. So if I do absolutely nothing and ask my girlfriend to marry me in 6 months, I'm only getting a 57% chance of her having married me. Well, it's a problem, right? So the finding is, at 57%, the chance that my girlfriend's going to marry me is half and half. And I don't want that. So what am I going to do? Coming to Toastmaster helps. Why? Because I learned how to give a persuasive speech. I learned how to use my voice. I learned how to use my gesture. So what am I going to do? I need to convince the dad that I can provide to his daughter with all means. So come out with a plan. Dad, after I marry your daughter, I want to buy a house. 2 years. Don't worry about it. I think your daughter will be okay. I'll tell the sister, the girlfriend's sister, that she'll have a room to herself once the sister moves out. That's a good thing, right? She's neutral right now, but if you tell her she's going to get her own room, that's something different. And then continue to kiss up to the mom. The mom is already supporting my position, but she's not wholeheartedly supporting the position. So I want to kiss up to her. So then I can get the most out of it. Now notice I excluded the best friend, because the best friend has very minimal power in affecting my girlfriend's decision. And frankly, I can care less about the ex-boyfriend, because there's nothing I can do to change his mind. Now if I were to do those 3 things, this is what happens. I pump up the score of the issue position to 1 from the mom. I pump up the dads from -2 to -1, and the sister from 0 to 1. And I go through the same process. And guess what? My probability comes out to 75%. From 57% to 75%. Now chances are my girlfriend's going to say yes. Right? I'm very confident about that. So what does this really tell us? This tells us that when you have a situation you can't solve, please, please, please use the Prince system to compute the possibility that what is the chance of your success rate. Never ever give up on something that you think is not achievable. Anything and everything is achievable if you understand the issue, if you understand the players involved in the issue, and if you understand how to persuade those who oppose to your issues. So you can always get the maximum result. Thank you.
Robert.
Thank you, Robert. I wonder, in the interest of International Women's Day, why the girlfriend's name wasn't up there. She doesn't seem to be a matter of who's making the decision. If you change her from -3 to a +3, you're definitely going to be in the meetings. Anyway, please take a minute to evaluate Robert's speech.
Excuse me, I just have to go. I have to get ready for tomorrow morning.
Thanks for coming, Andy.
Enjoy your night.
Please come again.
I probably will. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Bye.
Anyone has extra pen I can borrow?
OK， 好的，请把你的句话写完。
Our next speaker this evening will be Joan Rosen, and Joan is going to be doing the icebreaker speech. So,
好，咱们来
introduction.
欢迎 Joan。
In Mandarin.
大家好，我要介绍一个动画片。
What level?
Yeah，差不多。
平衡。
我们来吧。好，是一个动画片，不知道如果你们认识不认识，它的名字叫 Mr. Magoo。Mr. Magoo 是我的理想，是我的英雄。他眼睛他的眼睛不太好，他看不清楚。他常常走路，在他的附近有很多危险的事情发现，可是他走路他不知道，他很安全，只是他很清清楚楚的就走，没有问题。我说他是我的理想，为什么呢？这个故事是关于我，到印尼去的时候，我到印尼去，做一个志愿者。我去了以前，那个团体的人给我写一封信，他说我可以得到我的签证，在东京或者在印尼。我是一个很容易迷路的人，那个四方不太清楚，所以我在东京的时候跟一个朋友去，他陪我到那个领事馆。我们去的时候我没有注意我们坐什么地铁，怎么走，我就是跟着他，我们谈话很快乐。到那个领事馆，我们到的时候，那个工作的人说我需要等2个小时才能得到我的签证。 我的朋友很忙，他说他不能等我，所以我记得那封信说，如果不在东京，可以在印尼得到签证，所以我就是跟他一起去，我没有等，我没有耐心，所以我要在香港的时候要坐飞机到印尼去，他们不让我坐飞机，因为我没有签证。那个时候我需要等10天，在香港。我在香港有朋友，所以那个时候没有问题，而且他们比较快给我签证，我就到印尼去。到印尼以后，我工作，我想到，因为我学语言学，我到印尼去要分析语言，我要分析人以前没有学的语言。这个语言是在提莫尔，这个是印尼，这是爪哇，这是巴黎，巴黎很有名，这是所以我打算到地里去，我给一个人写信。可是那个时候，这个就是东提莫尔，东提莫尔不在印尼，是另外一个国家，所以我想去。那个时候我到苏拉巴亚去，到那个consulate 领事馆，我跟一个人说，我告诉他我的计划，他说没有问题，可以到提莫尔去，没有问题。所以我想去，可是那个时候我知道我的签证就还有1个月就完了，所以我想我不舒服，我不想到另外一个国家去，在印尼外面就没有签证，可能完了不能回去印尼，所以那个时候我没有到提莫尔去，然后我回来，因为在印尼那个消息不太多，不知道，因为我住在爪哇，住在这儿，我们没听到有什么发生在外面。可是那个时候，这个有 Portugal， 有葡萄牙控制东提莫尔，可是他们决定离开，所以那个时候有几个党，他们要决定这个提莫尔东提莫尔要跟印尼或者要独立，要做什么？一个党是共产党，所以那个印尼的政府很怕，他们送兵到提莫尔去。那个时候，我本来打算去的时候，很多人死了，因为被印尼的病人杀了。所以如果我那个时候去，可能很危险，因为我打算带录音机，就是他们很会怀疑那个外国人为什么在这儿。所以我回来的时候，我觉得我的运气非常好，而且这个 Mr. Mugu 是我的理想，他是我的英雄。谢谢。
好，谢谢John。
谢谢。
So we'll leave a minute for evaluation.
写你最后的一句话。
第一页。
是吗？写下我的文字。
我说对吗？
那听起来像是
You and I。
死之前的最后一句话。
哦，没有什么意思。
应该是说，请写完你的，请赶快写完你的
，OK，
你的评估，
你的评估，
写完你的评估，好，
尽快
写完，
尽快 ，OK， 尽快写你的评估，
写完，
尽快完成你的评估。
尽快写完你的评估。
尽快写完你的评估 ，OK， 评估，哦 ，OK， 评估。
We have a little extra time tonight because we only had 2 speakers. So I'm going to fill right now with a little, say something about International Women's Day because that's our theme. I never had a problem understanding the idea of women's equality personally. I grew up with 3 older sisters, and they always controlled me completely. Whenever their friends would come, they'd watch and they'd say, "Andy, go get wood for the fire." Oh, okay. I never knew any different. And then I grew up and I met my wife, and she said, "Thank you very much to your 3 older sisters." And then after that, I had 2 daughters. No sons, no brothers, no sons.
Wow.
So I always thought it was very natural for women to take equal role in society. In fact, I always thought they were higher than me. Until I grew up and I found out they're not equal. But later, I have to say, even though my wife really is very good at being a social person, dealing with the world, being competitive, I have to admit, she's much better than me. And in fact, when I had to take over the roles like doing more cooking, doing cleaning, I found that I found that I was laundry impaired. And also not so good at cooking. My kids grew up thinking that the first alert smoke alarm was a dinner bell. So anyway, the celebration of International Women's Day is something we should really uphold. And I want to say congratulations to all the women here this evening for helping carry forth this great movement.
在中文怎么说 ？A good man is hard to find。在中文怎么说？
好男人不容易找。
好
Always。
我们现在就欢迎我们的英语 Table Topics 人过来吧。好，谢谢。
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rebecca, your English table topic master tonight. So, as for the International Women's Day, what do you always have when you heard about this? It came out to my mom whenever I heard about the word of women, because I always appreciate how much hard work she invests on me, and how much time, energy, all the stuff coming to her family for so many years. I would never think I can do the same thing as she did to us. But probably time changed, things changed, so I don't know. But how about you guys? Whenever someone brings a woman to you, who would pop out in your mind at the first time? And how would you evaluate her? Any volunteers? Hello. Do you want to try?
Me? Sure.
will bring out women to you.
That doesn't happen.
Oh, okay. About in your mind. So why? How would you do that?
So first impressions. Well, like yourself, I really appreciate all the love and care that I've received from my mom, from my grandmother. I think men and women do have different roles in society. I think we're at the point where we've broken down a lot of barriers between the two, which is a great thing because I think not just gender, but race, age, and different discrimination against individuals have taken on a new meaning in our age versus 10 years ago, 50 years ago, even 100 years ago. I think there'll be things that it'll be hard to have equal, like the restrooms. There'll always be a men's restroom and a woman's restroom.
That's not true.
Okay. In terms of first impressions, some of the things that comes to mind when the word woman is brought up are caring. I think woman tends to be more verbal than men are in general. And there are things that women do better than men. For example, I work on the construction site a lot, and one thing that the superintendent always tells me is there are less women in this industry because they are smarter than most men. And I think for the most part that is true. And I think some of the things are reflected in how we work and how we live when it comes to equality and our pursuit of equality. Thank you.
So my second question will be something about equality, 平等 for tonight. Oh, thank you. I heard that. I'm not sure how many people feel like the importance of equality between men and women, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people like to say that, oh, I think we're equal. I think men and women are equal. But whenever the times comes to something really special, we think maybe only men can do it. It's things like living the happy stuff or doing really time-consuming work, energy-consuming work, something like that. So my question is, how you define the equality between men and women? Any volunteers? Ursula!
So you have a couple of elements to your question. One of them that's stuck out to me the most is about women and being able to lift things and do physical labor and things like that. And I think that there's, depending on where you are in the world, that visual is very, very different. If you see people who are working very hard in fields and in agriculture in general, we have a lot of people in general who have to, whether that's a small woman, a tall woman, or a big woman, a short woman, and vice versa for men, you see a lot of people who have to do very physical deeds and do them for quite some time. One of the things that comes to mind when we're talking about physical abilities is that a lot of women really, really underestimate their strength, physical strength, and the ways that women can lift things and actually move objects is different than men, but by no means less effective. So that's one thing I think that every woman should go out and lift weights, for example. It's absolutely true. And from a personal perspective, okay, so there's a little bit of a drawback because you can't fit into clothing anymore. So, I have really big muscles. I can't fit into any clothing. So, well, it's not true. I have to really specifically buy clothing to fit into them. And that's one of the reasons my dear friend Kayla understands now why I hate shopping. However, I don't think I ever want to give up my ability to do physical activity because I can't fit into clothing. I found a personal tailor to deal with that issue. And So just to summarize the global aspect of this, I think we can, as women in this society, look to women in other cultures and nations to see what they're doing with their physical bodies and what we should actually maybe learn from, and then shut the magazine from an advertisement perspective and maybe watch some news channels about what's happening from an economic perspective and see people in agriculture. Thank you.
Okay, and then my last question. I'm not sure whether it's appropriate to bring it up or not, but I would just give a try. Maybe something to do with peace, equality, I'm not sure, but still. Oh, thank you. So I actually just read an article about how a husband should treat his wife in order to be a role model for their children. So if you can be the good dad, treat your wife really well, your children there is going to learn that and learn that from you. So believe it or not, whether you're married or single or not married and no partner yet, how would you be a role model to your children? Doesn't matter you're a guy or woman. That's my last question. Any volunteers? No? No? Would you want to give it a try?
Thank you for choosing me. I was actually kind of like Andy. I grew up in a family. I have 2 older sisters. And my dad pretty much spent all his energy and time working, supporting the family. So most of the time I stay home with two sisters and my mom. And then we actually live with my uncle. And his side of the family actually had 4 older sisters and then 1 older brother for me. So I'm actually the smallest kid in the whole 2 family. So I was pretty much raised up by the whole group of 2 family, and I'm the youngest one. And then among lots of women, right? Because most of men actually work. And then as I grew up, I married my wife and I have 2 daughters now. So sometimes my friends joke around about I live in a female dormitory. The only man in the family. So in terms of the sort of between men and women, and I actually see the equality not a sort of a huge concern, because to be a role model of my daughter, I actually feel they actually look up more to my wife, not to me. I pretty much spend most of my time working. So I should turn the question around and ask my wife, what do you need to do to become a role model? So maybe that's not fair to her. But I think in essence, it's probably how you treat your partner, like how you treat your wife and husband, how you treat them with respect, right? And then same thing, how you treat your family, as how do I treat my 2 daughters? I think that's also a very important part of the life. If you yell at them or, you know, unreasonable, and then turn out they probably will treat other person the same way. But if you usually come approach them with an open mind and just understand what their issues are and then trying to reason with them, I guess they will learn that's your approach. And then when they grow up, that's probably how they will treat other people. So that's kind of my perspective. I wouldn't say that's sort of set up myself as a role model. At least that's kind of the way you treat other people, and then they learn from you. Eventually, they will treat other people the same way. I'm not sure I answered your question.
So with that, that ends my English table topics today, and thank you everyone for tonight.
好，然后我们来欢迎第2个 table topics 人，就是中文的，我们中文 table topics 的演讲人是 Jessie， 请过来。
大家好，今天我们的主题是平等。我觉得在美国说平等应该是非常合适，因为美国就是在世界就是平等是它建国里面的一个非常重要的精神。然后平等涉及我们生活的各个方面，比如说我们会说法律面前人人平等，然后我们也会说要求同工同酬，那就是说工作待遇方面的平等。就连小孩子，如果父母亲偏心哪一个，他们都会吵着说：“哎呀，你买了这个玩具给他，没有买给我。”所以平等是非常重要的。然后你觉得，那我的问题就是说，第一个问题就是，你觉得在我们今天生活的社会里，男女真的平等吗？你可以从工作方面说，也可以从家庭方面说，什么方面都可以说。You pick all the Chinese speaker to speak. Kayla.
就说你说生活中有没有真正的平等？
对，男女真的平等吗？
我觉得生活中怎么说呢？现在越来越平等了吧？但是就从工作方面上讲，我自己感觉还是蛮平等的。在我们公司，只要你可以做这份工作，不管你是男还是女，都可以 apply 就申请这份工作。但是我听有的朋友说，在别的公司就是说，他们觉得你是女孩子，可能来了以后很快就要找男朋友，又没心思工作，很快要结婚生小孩，生了小孩你心思又去在小孩身上，然后还有休就是产假的时候也会 take 很长时间，所以公司就不喜欢，就压住你，就会提升那些男士。那所以这我也有听说，但是倒是没发生在我身上，所以我也很难说判断到底在工作方面他们是不是真的平等，可能有的公司平等，有的公司不平等吧。在生活方面呢，我觉得大家就像刚才那个 Barry 说，他的家里可能太太其实这个也有点不平等，我感觉，因为太太现在不仅要带小孩，她也要出去工作，所以说呢，你们两个都工作，那为什么带小孩的事儿是太太做呢？所以就有点不平等。但是，所以我就觉得，这都很难说，就是说 depend on the specific case， 就是特别的每个案例不一样吧，我是这么想。谢谢。然后第二个问题就是围绕着这个男女分工问题。一般中国人的传统家庭就是男主外女主内，然后现在很多西方社会，包括中国社会，也有一些也出现有一些男主内女主外的家庭结构。那就是说，如果是你要组织一个家庭，将来或者现在的家庭，你会更加喜欢哪一种模式呢？Robert
我已经工作了10年的时间，如果要我选择的话，我宁愿待在家里看小孩子做饭，因为我觉得在外面那个世界很复杂，你要看老板的面子，要看同事说那些乱七八糟，太辛苦了吧。要么你在家里的话，你打扫卫生，照顾孩子，带他上学下学，跟那些别的父母聊聊天，多好。然后你老婆就是在外面工作，让她出去打拼，让她跟那些老板啊、同事啊说的乱七八糟无所谓，我就很安静在家里带孩子。所以我宁愿，如果我有选择的话，我宁愿在家里。
哎，今天怎么回事？然后现在最后一个问题就是说，我们讨论平等的原因，就是因为社会上还有很多不平等的事情。那如果 你如果要你建议一些很小的事情，我们平时可以做，可以帮助我们的社会环境更加平等，你觉得会有什么东西我们这些普通人都可以做，都可以改变这个氛围、这个气氛的呢？
好难呢。
具体来说是用什么方法？方法来改变这个？
对，如果很小的事情。哦耶！
就是如果我们要看到有要改变不平等呢，有几个方面。第一个方面呢，就是如果我们看到有不平等的事情，我们要马上 bring up this issue， 然后去 fix 它。比如说在公司里看到不平等的，就要跟老板说，哎，这个怎么搞的？怎么提升他不提升我？然后说这个，然后如果是说。在家里呢，比如说你老公呢不做饭了，或者是做家务不够你多，你就说，哎，你要多做呀，你要看一下那个，你看一下那个李安呐，不做很多家务的吗？然后还有就是我们自己就是比如说有些。比如说有些人可能社会地位比较低一点的话，我们也自己也要 respect 他们啊。比如说我们看到janitor 或者看到乞丐呀，也要就是 polite 比较 polite 这样子，就是不要好像看不起别人一样这样，就是从我们做起这样子。
好，行了，那我今天晚上问题问完了，谢谢。
We've come to the point of the meeting tonight where we'll do the evaluation. So first we'd like to ask our general evaluator, Kayla, to give us a
So tonight I'll be the general evaluator. So the first section I'll call the evaluators for the two prepared speeches. The first one is Robert Trent's evaluator, Ken. Welcome, Ken.
First of all, Robert, congratulations on completing your 10th speech. The goal of this speech is to inspire your audience, and very definitely that goal is achieved in that I'm inspired to look more carefully at my goals and who's involved and kind of calculate how I can achieve my goals. Now, you started out by explaining the system that you need to set your goal, know the players, know if they support or oppose, know their issue position, and then calculate the odds of you achieving your goal, and then working on improving those odds. And to demonstrate the system, I think you made a very good choice in your example of turning a girlfriend into a fiancé. And I believe that was a good choice because it got our attention. It also caused a little bit of tension. I wasn't quite sure where that would all go. And it also had humor in it. So I like that example. Now, as far as points for improvement that we could all benefit from hearing from, at the very start of your speech, you did say, okay, and then you started your speech. Now, for example, President Obama, when he does the State of the Union address, he doesn't come up and say, okay, and then start his speech. So it'd just be a little bit more professional if you jumped right into the actual content. Also, one of the early slides, the slide with position, power, priority, I felt your body language is a little frenetic, a little maybe nervous, and that's in big contrast to the table topics when Jesse asked you a question and you came up here and your body movements were very fluid, very calm, and very forceful. I appreciate that. Another point of improvement was, although I was inspired to think more about my goals, it might be even better to have something very specific, like buy Machiavelli's book, or every one of you think of a goal right now and act on it. You know, something very specific instead of being more general. But overall, very definitely you connected with the audience. There is humor. It's always good to talk about something that we all have a shared interest in. Certainly you mentioned Toastmasters. That's something we all have an interest in. Obviously you practiced this talk, which is important for the 10th talk. You want to give it smoothly. You didn't use notes. You were also able to use the projector well. That can always be a challenge, the projector and the PowerPoint. And now you're ready for your CC. You're also club president. So with that, I'm sure you'll get your CL, your leadership designation as well. And finally, something that we can all learn from Robert is you really need to participate to improve. If you want to achieve equality with Robert, please participate. If you want to have peace with yourself, please participate. Thank you very much.
Like Ken's evaluation, always very thorough and detailed. Yeah, thank you. And then the next evaluator will be Casey. Casey will evaluate John's first speech. Let's welcome Casey.
I want to speak in English so everyone can understand what I'm saying for Joan. It was Joan's first speech, her first Mandarin icebreaker speech. It was very impressive that she brought us graphics with her stories. So by introducing her heroes, Mr. Magoo, we understand where her passion's coming from as a volunteer and where she went, the process, and also her work, and she defined her luck being safely returned to the States after the trip in Indonesia. From her speech, from her content, I could clearly see her enthusiasm in the being a volunteer in an Asian countries. By listening this kind of humor, it lists the humor side of her personality. So by these examples that she listed, I can really get to know her, not only as a volunteer, but as a very passionate person of humor and helping other people. For gesture-wise, I think she did good with her voice variations, and her content is very clear. She delivered very clear speech. So I think it mapped all the criteria for the first icebreaker speech. But what I would suggest for her next speech, maybe to maintain eye contact with the audience, maybe a little bit more gesture moving around, but maintaining eye contact would be a great thing to do for the next speech. And looking forward to the next speech.
Okay, Casey gave a great evaluation too. Now I'm gonna call the counter, which is Kyle. Can you give the report, please?
Right. So for us, we had Andy with just, I counted one Allison, I counted 2 Us. Joan's speech, I counted 3 negas and 3 Us. Amy and Barry, I didn't catch anything. Rebecca, I counted 1 Ursula, I counted 1 and Kayla, I also counted 1 And everybody else, I didn't catch anything else, so that's it.
Oh, okay, that's good. And next is our grammarian, Ursula.
One of the things that is really important is names, and I wanted to talk about a particular vowel, and Kathy is going to thank me for this, because a lot of people, and actually this comes from last week as well when Ken was mentioning, a lot of people are saying Casey, or something that sounds like Casey, which is another name, and it's a common issue because the A vowel is up here. This is a rough diagram of your mouth. These are the front vowels. And this vowel is in the middle range of how open your jaw is. So A and A is very wide. So if you're in doubt of Kathy, I want to hear everyone. Kathy. Kathy. Yes. So just throw that jaw open and you'll have much better luck with Kathy. can say that to your cat too. You can say, "Hey, cat, what are you doing there eating my food?" I have some general comments for people, and more general comments. When we talk about very as a modifier, Rebecca, you said very in terms of very, 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 very something or another. And Ken, you also said very definitely. A lot of times the word doesn't really add a whole lot of value. Instead, I would say something like very, or just let that sing in terms of one word. That's something to try. I also have some fun nuggets here, so bear with me. Samuel, less workers. Shift that to fewer workers, because we're talking about countable nouns here. Speaking of numbers, Barry has a good one. He said 2 daughter. And I thought, oh, I'm going to talk about numbers some more. So why is it that we say 1 daughter, but we'll say 3/4 daughters, or 2 daughters? So if we have something that, let's say we have a pie, we say 1/2 pies, but there's a plural on the end of that for something that's less than 1. Why? Doesn't make sense, right? It's just the way it is. So, what else do we have here for some nuggets? I wanted to just remark on the 57% from Robert's speech. It's not actually half and half, and that bugged me. It's a little bit more than half and half, but not much. As a person with 10 years of tech writing, that really kind of got my scientific ear in a little, loop. Also, there's a phrase in your speech that says, provide to his daughter with all means. I said provide for. To provide for is that whole complete verb concept. And then by all means possible. I needed something on the end of that. There was an issue with adverbs. Again, in general, people can think about adjectives and adverbs. One that I heard from Robert, and you had a lot of written material, so it was easy to pick on you. Directly, indirectly impact, direct or indirect impact, which really needed to be directly or indirectly impact. And I love the word impact because it's like something is running into something. And it's a little bit of a business jargon word there, and it could just simply be effect. Each player support, again, we're having an issue with singular versus, or the third person conjugation of that verb. Very common with Mandarin and Cantonese speakers. If you have any other questions, ask me personally. I have fun with this stuff all the time.
I always have fun to listen to Ursula too, all the time. Okay, now it's our timers report. Amy, could you give the report?
Sure. So Robert, 9 minutes and 6 seconds. John, 6 minutes and 32 seconds. Table topics. Samuel is 1 minute and 58 seconds. Ursula is 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Barry is 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Kayla is 1 minute and 23 seconds. Robert is 52 seconds. Amy is 1 minute. Evaluator, Ken is 3 minutes and 26 seconds. Cassie. Correct this time, right? Cassie is 1 minute and 34 seconds.
Thank you very much. So the third part of my evaluation is my impression for this meeting. So we start at 6:31. It's pretty much on time, so it's great. And we introduced Lily and Andrew, and I'm talking about Andy. We is Andy and Allison. They explained the roles to all of us, clarified, that's very good. And they explained the word of the day, that's good. Oh, 2 little things is technical issue is Robert needs to use a PowerPoint, but it's kind of not ready. It's kind of takes some time, and we don't have the, what's it called? The
remote?
Remote, yeah.
Who wanna buy that?
I think who has that?
Alberto.
Alberto has it, but he's not here today.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay,
We'll invest.
we need that. And then also the same thing happened to Joan. And when she talked about start her speech, the picture is not ready, so it's kind of takes some time, make people wonder what's happening. And so it's the little things. And also this two chair, I don't know why it's here. And then we don't have what's it called?
The lecture.
Lectern. And the two chairs here bother people. And also, Amy, when you hold the time card, hold higher and longer. So sometimes you show one time and then put down, people maybe even didn't pay attention. So just for generally speaking, not just you, people hold longer. Before when I attend the contest, I saw them put a very high table or chair, and they just open it up and let it stand by itself for all the rest of the minute. Yeah, so I think that can help. And the great thing is Andy, because we only had two speakers, so Andy filling his own story and let the meeting goes better. So I appreciate that. So I think we had a great meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody.
So now we've just come to the end of the meeting. We need to set next week's agenda. Robert, would you like to discuss that, please?
All right. Well, it was a wonderful meeting tonight. We got to hear a lot of the 10th speech and also the first speech. So it's a very big contrast from an icebreaker to the conclusion of getting your competent communicator. And being in Toastmaster, really what it means is you'll see this growth path from the very first speech to the very last speech, and you'll see how you grow throughout the process to the very, very end. And I can speak for myself because I still remember the time when I first stood up here. I was very nervous, I was trembling and whatnot. But throughout the process, it just becomes very second nature, if you will, to stand up here and speak in front of people. Now, whether it be a small group or a big group, it's just the same. So with that, yes?
How long have you been with the club?
I believe I started last year, about April of last year. And I started giving speeches for the first 6-7 months almost very consistently, and I sort of back out. But really, the goal is once you give your 10th speech, you'll see that improvement there, and you'll be really proud.